Good afternoon. Today, 23rd April 2020, and in the subject building materials construction planning, Unit 2, cement, properties of the cement. In this, we are going to be discussing about the Unit 2 as a revision class, cement, and what are the basic ingredients of the cement, and what are the types of the cement, and what are the tests that we are going to be conducting for the cement. So cement is the first. We'll go for the introduction. The cement is the one of the construction material that we are going to be using for various civil engineering constructions. Apart from the cement, we are going to be using first one is the stone, and as well as this from the stone we are going to be separating as the coarse aggregate and fine aggregate. Later the brick we are going to be using, and cement and water. So the altogether we are going to be using into the cement is the one of the binding material that we are going to be using for the various civil engineering constructions, as in the form of cement mortar or in the form of cement concrete. So cement mortar, in that we are going to be using, so without the coarse aggregate or the stone aggregate, cement, fine aggregate and water, we are going to be adding together to get a matrix we are going to be called as cement mortar. Cement, coarse aggregate or the stone aggregate, fine aggregate and water. So this mixture we are going to be called as cement concrete. So the cement will be using either it is a cement mortar or we are going to be using in the cement concrete. So that is the differences between cement and cement concrete. And cement is the one of the the binding material that we are going to be using into the various civil engineering constructions, including with the stone and as well as the brick. Then now we had to go for the, so when the cement is invented and what are the basic ingredients that will be having the cement, and how we are going to be processing the cement. So what are the methods to manufacturing of the cement process, and what are the different types of the cements are available, and where we are going to be using these different types of the cements, and which area that will be suitable for each type of the cement. And finally we will go for the what are the tests to be conducted to know that the quality of the cement. Now we are going for the introductory part of the cement. So cement is invented in 1824 by the scientist Joseph Aspdin from Leeds City, England. So he did very simple experiment, or we can say that the simple process, and from that it is going to be invented. So he is going to be taking that the calcined mixture of limestone and clay burnt together, and what is the output with the guy he got it, that is going to be named as the cement, because it is going to be similar to that the similar to the fine form of the sand. That's why he has going to be given the cement. And also he called it as a Portland cement or the Portland cement, because when it hardened, it produced a material similar to the stones from the quarries near Portland Island in UK. So the scientist belongs to that, the Joseph Aspdin belongs to the UK, United Kingdom, England, and he named the product we are going to be called as a Portland cement. The reason is that, so he invented the material near to the quarries of the quarry near the Portland Island. That's why he has going to be given as the name as Portland cement. So that is about the introductory part, when the cement is going to be invented, from where from the century 1824 onwards, the cement is going to be used in different forms and different construction activities, especially in civil engineering. Now, what are the raw materials that will be producing that the cement? The raw materials will be having that the two basic raw materials. One is we are going to be called as argillaceous materials. Another one is going to be called as calcareous materials. Argillaceous materials, in the other side we are going to be called as clay. Clay is the main ingredient. So then we are going to be called as argillaceous materials. In that, shale also is going to be added. And calcareous materials is going to be constituting that limestone, marl and chalk. These together, these are the raw materials, argillaceous and calcareous materials. So grind together in the form of water, adding with the water or without the water, we are going to be producing the product we are going to be called as the cement. Materials from any two of these groups may be used for Portland cement production, providing that they must contain in proper form proportions of lime, silica and alumina. In addition to that, argillaceous or calcareous materials, some of the ingredients, some of the chemical constituents are the lime, silica and alumina also is going to be there in the production or manufacturing of the cement, of ordinary Portland cement. So then so what are the chemical analysis, or we can say the chemical constituents that is going to be producing the ordinary Portland cement? what are the various percentages. This table is going to be giving you as the idea of what are the chemical constituents that will be having the ordinary Portland cement. Calcium oxide CaO 63%, silicon dioxide 20%, aluminum oxide trioxide 6%, ferrous oxide so Fe2O 3%, sulfur trioxide 3%, magnesium oxide 1.5, sodium and potassium oxides of 1, and miscellaneous 3.5%. So these are the various chemical constituents so that will be having in the ordinary Portland cement, and finally we are able to get the output product is the ordinary Portland cement. So this is the various proportions with respect to the argillaceous and calcareous materials. Then after understanding that the chemical constituents and the cement is going to be producing by with the Bogu compounds. These are going to be responsible for to get the fine form of the cement, fine powder form of the cement. We are able to get it based on that the Bogu compounds. In addition to that, the chemical constituents is the what are the Bogu compounds? Portland cements are composed of 4 basic chemical compounds with their names and chemical formulas are tricalcium silicate. C3S is the chemical formula 3CaO, SiO2. Calcium and silica is the main constituents will be there, and in addition to that one, we are having that the alumina. So already discussed in the previous slide, the previous part is that. So we are having argillaceous and calcareous. In addition to that one, lime, silica, and alumina are the chemical constituents. So that are helpful for, that are having in the ordinary Portland cement itself. Tricalcium silicate, dicalcium silicate, tricalcium aluminate, tetracalcium aluminum ferrite. C3S is known as the tricalcium silicate, C2S is known as the dicalcium silicate, tricalcium aluminate is C3A, and C4F is tetracalcium aluminum ferrite. These are we are going to be called as Bogu compounds. Bogu compounds or Bogu compounds. The inventor is the Bogue. That's why the name has given after his name is going to be called Bogu compound. These are is going to be responsible for the properties of the cement is going to be changes already. The properties is going to be enhancing that the strength and durability is going to be mainly depends upon C3S, C2S, C3A, and C4AF. Now we will go for each and everything one by one. So what is the tricalcium silicate? What is the dicalcium silicate? What is the tetracalcium silicate? Tricalcium aluminate, tetracalcium aluminum ferrite. So how it is going to be influencing that the ordinary Portland cement, how it is going to be varies, or how it is going to changes the properties of the cement after the in the cement itself. Tricalcium silicate is the C3S. C3S is having the peculiar property or extraordinary property is that one hardens very rapidly, and it is going to be called as early strength. If C3S is going to be more, automatically the cement will be having hardens rapidly, and it is going to be getting the early strength. We want to get the early strength, or we are going to get the high strength in a short period of time. Then C3S compound will be more. C3S is going to be more. Then, and contrary to that one, next is going to be called a dicalcium silicate. So dicalcium silicate will be having that slow process, hardens slowly. It affects on strength increases occurs beyond 1 week. So we are going to be getting that the C2S is going to be having that imparting the strength in a later period of time, or we can say that the delayed strength we are able to get from the dicalcium silicate, C2S. C3S means rapid, and C2S is going to be called a delayed strength we are going to be get. So we want to go for the delayed strength, then we have to use the dicalcium silicate in higher proportion. Then tricalcium aluminate. So contributes to strength development in the first few days. It is the first compound to be hydrate, the least desirable component because of its high heat of hydration generation, and its reactiveness with soils and water containing moderate to high sulfate concentrations. So this tricalcium aluminate is going to be having that high heat of hydration. We are able to get it. Because of that one, we are going to be using very less in the less proportion in the ordinary Portland cement. And wherever we are having that so the water containing water retaining structures, then we have to be see that the tricalcium aluminate the compound will be more. That is the high sulfate concentrations in that areas. We had to be choose the cement will be having the tricalcium aluminate will be in the higher percentage. Then finally, last one is going to be called tetracalcium aluminum ferrite. That is C4AF is going to be getting that lowest clinkering temperature. C4F contributes very little to the strength of concrete, even though it hydrates very rapidly. C4AF will be having that another disadvantage is going to be called as a flash set. it sets very fast, and that's why it doesn't have any strength, and durability will be there. Little strength. That's why we are able to get the little strength, little strength. That's why we are going to be using very less in the less proportion in the manufacturing of the cement is the tetra calcium aluminum ferrite. This is the flash shed is the disadvantage will be there. Then the chemical composition of the Bogu compounds. Already we saw that. So from the, this is going to be called as from C3S to C4AF will be having the C3S will be having the maximum value, maximum percentage, and C4AF will be having the less percentage, because C4AF compound will be influencing that the flash set. That's why we are going to be using in the less quantity. The percentage will be very less. Then next one is going to be called as C3A, next is C2S and C3S. So the priority is going to be given, first priority is going to be giving as tricalcium silicate with 54.1% and dicalcium silicate 16.6% and tetracalcium aluminate so 10.8%. So tetracalcium aluminum ferrite, tricalcium aluminate is 10.8, tetracalcium aluminum ferrite is 9.1%. So these are the chemical composition of the Bogu compounds for the manufacturing of the ordinary Portland cement with various percentages. Then the manufacturing process of the cement. So how the manufacturing is going to be taken place. So the, what is the stepwise procedure? So first the step is that crushing of the ingredients, that is argillaceous calcareous materials. We have to do that the crushing, screwing and stockpiling the raw materials, calculating the proportions of the raw materials, how much proportion will be required of argillaceous calcareous materials with the lime, silica and alumina. Preparing that the raw mix by blending, we are going to be mixing together of all the ingredients, feeding to raw mix into the rotary kiln. The kiln will be having that the temperature controlled one. In that we are going to be feeding the raw mix, and with the 100 degrees centigrade, starting from the 100 degrees centigrade, so we are going to be heating that the ingredients, and we have to be finally we are able to get that the clinker. For the clinker we are going to be adding the gypsum. Finally we are able to get the ordinary Portland cement in a fine powder form. So 100 degrees centigrade where the free water is evaporated, that is going to be free water is going to be on the surface of the ingredients will be there, then it is going to be evaporated at 100 degrees centigrade, and 150 to 300 degrees centigrade loosely bound water is going to be evaporated. 500 degrees centigrade more firmly bound water is evaporated. 600 to 900 degrees centigrade reaction between lime and clay starts. Lime, silica and alumina, clay starts. 1300 degrees centigrade major compound formation starts. 1400 to 1600 degrees centigrade output temperature. In that we are going to be getting that we are going to be put into the kiln, and we are going to be grinding all the materials. Around 1600 degrees centigrade clinker forms. Clinker means it is going to be called as a very big size material. Bulk or the voluminous material we are going to be called as clinker. Technical term we are going to be called as a clinker, that we are able to get it once we are going to be adding or mixing all the ingredients together and with their standard temperature, with a so given temperature. So there is around 1600 degrees centigrade. It forms C3A, C2S, C3S and C4AF. Clinker is going to be cooled and stored. We had to be, because we are going for 1600 degrees centigrade. After that we are going to be getting the end product will be, so high heat will be there or the more heat will be there, then we have to be cooled down and stored, and clinker is grown with the gypsum. So we are going to be, once again we are going to be, so the clinker is going to be so grinding with the with addition of the gypsum. So the gypsum we are going to be added to get that setting properties. So setting properties of the cement we are able to achieve by using that the gypsum. That's why we are going to be adding with the clinker. Finally we are going to be, after that we are able to get the fine powder form is going to be called as ordinary Portland cement, storing and marketing. So this is the process we are going to be take it out for the preparation, or we can say that the manufacturing of the cement. Actually the manufacturing of the cement will be taken place in the two types or two methods will be there. One is dry process, another one is going to be called as wet process. So in the wet process, the term itself is going to be giving you meaning that the water is going to be added with the various ingredients. The basic ingredients of argillaceous calcareous materials, lime, silica and alumina with water, and we are going to be grinding with the given temperatures. So that is we are going to call as wet. That is going to be called wet process. In dry process means we are, without water we are going to mixing together, and we are able to get the output in the form of the ordinary Portland cement. We are going to call it as dry process. Whatever here the discussed is going to be called completely, we are having the dry process. And wet process If you go for that, it is going to be very hard. So that is the ingredients will be very hard. In that case, we have to be add the water such that we can able to grinding the ingredients in a smoother way. We are going to be adding together, adding the water, and we are able to get that the appropriate mix. So that is going to be called as wet process. The dry process or the wet process we are going to be using for the manufacturing process of the cement. But majority cases will follow that the dry process. The wet process is somewhat is going to be expensive one. So now whatever the type of the cement we are going to manufacturing by using that the dry process itself. Then the one important property or one important definition that will be there for to understand the cement is going to be called as hydration. What is meant by the hydration? So why we are going to use the hydration in the cement? So that is the chemical combination of cement and water known as hydration, because we are going to be adding the water to the cement and we are able to get the paste. So that we are going to call it as the hydration process. Then the heat is going to be generated. That heat will be reduced, and otherwise if the heat will be same thing will be liberated, then it is going to be giving you, or it is going to be reflecting the cracks on the exposed surfaces of the concrete constructions. So that's why hydration is going to be playing a role. So such that we are going for curing of anything that is going to be prepared by using the cement mortar, or we are going to be preparing by the cement concrete. So you are done the cement concrete or you are done the cement mortar. After that, we are going to be curing is going to be done. The reason behind that one is we have to be cool that the heat is going to be generated from the hydration process. Means we are going to be adding the water to the mix, either the cement or cement coarse aggregate and fine aggregate. A lot of heat is going to be generated. We have to be cooled down. For that purpose, we are going to be using that the water, that is water cement ratio. So the chemical combination of cement and water known as the hydration produces a very hard and strong binding medium for the aggregate particles in the concrete. At the end of hydration, normally a heat is liberated, which is expressed as calories per gram. So in normal construction, where the sizes of the structural members are not so large, the dissipation of this heat creates no problem. If it is small sizes of the construction or small sizes of the construction members, doesn't have given any effect on that one. On cold weather concreting, this heat is advantageous, but in hot weather means the tropical countries. So in cold countries, it doesn't have any effect because of that the heat of hydration. But in the case of hot weather or the tropical countries like India, so we are going to be facing the problem because of hot weather. Hot weather and as well as the heat, both will be acting such that we are not going to be doing for the curing. Then it may be reflect onto that the cracks. So that is the, but in hot weather and in mass concrete construction, this generated heat may cause thermal cracks and should be avoided. So this is the problem is going to be taking place with the heat of hydration. Heat of hydration. If you are not going to control the heat of hydration, so that is the thermal cracks is going to be developed onto the structural members of the concrete. So then the time taken to achieve 80% of the hydration and heat of hydration from the main chemical compounds of the Portland cement. Heat of hydration from joules per gram and 80% of that one. How much heat is going to be generated? So C3S is 502. Heat evaluation will be there. And C2S 251. C3A 873 and C4AF is 49. So the time to achieve 80% of the hydration is 10 days. Here the 100 days we are going to be taking for C2S. For 6 days for the C3A and C4AF is going to be 50 days. Based on that one, heat of hydration joules per grams is high heat of hydration is C3A, and after that high heat of hydration is going to be 502, 251 and as well as 419 and 251. Then the next is the type of the cement used for the various constructions, types of the as per the Indian Standard Codal provisions. So various cements are available. That is depending upon that depending upon the construction means depending upon the site, what type of construction we are going to be taken care of, what type of construction we are going to be built. Based on that one, we are going to be using that the site conditions. We are going to be using that the types of the cement is going to be vary. So first is the priority is the ordinary Portland cement. We are going to name it as OPC. So that is going to be referring with IS 269 and 1989, IS 8112 1989, and IS 12269 1987. These codes are going to be giving that. So the preparation of the ordinary Portland cement and quality control means the test that's conducted for the ordinary Portland cement, entire procedure is going to be given in the code books. They give the codal provisions. Indian Standard Code books is going to be given for the guidance. Next is rapid hardening cement is going to be called RHC, IS 8041 and 1990. Sulfate resisting cement, IS 12330 1988. Portland slag cement, IS 455 and 1989. Quick setting cement. So till now we don't have the codal provisions for to maintain the quick setting cement. Portland Pozzolana cement, IS 1489, 1489, 1991, flash based one. Low heat cement, IS 12600, 1989. White cement, IS 8042, 1989. Hydrophobic cement, IS 8043, 1991. So these are the various types of the cements are available to go for the construction depending upon the site requirement. So first we'll go by one where we are going to be, or we can say that the suitability of the type of the cement for the various constructions. So first we will see with the ordinary Portland cement. Ordinary Portland cement will be available in the different grades. That is the 33 grade, 43 grade and 53 grade is available. Ordinary Portland cement is available in 33, 43 and 53. So that is the grade of the cement that will be available. Depending upon the grade of the cement, the strength is going to be achieved. So 33 grade is going to be used as 33 Newton per mm square. That is the compressive strength of the cement mortar. And if you go for the 43 Newton per mm square compressive strength. And if you go for 53, so compressive strength of the cement mortar is 53 Newton per mm square. So this is the target strength we are going to be getting by using 33 grade cement, 43 grade cement and 53 grade cement. And so these are the depending upon the site requirement and depending upon the type of the construction we are going to be using. Earlier we are going to be using more with the 33 grade cement. Later we are changed to the 43. Now almost all we are going to be using 43 and 53 because high grade cement we are going to be getting that the high strength and durability. As per durability also is durability will be also is more while you are going to be using with the 53 and 43 grade cement. But contrary, or we can say that in other side we can able to see that 43 and 53 grade cement will be having expensive also. So that's why we had to be choose the grade of the cement depending upon the site requirement and depending upon the type of the construction. So it is used for general construction purposes. It is also used in most of the masonry works. Is the ordinary Portland cement 33, 43 and 53. Then the rapid hardening cement. The term itself is going to be giving you as many rapid hardening. So we are able to get that hardened very quickly, and we can able to get we are going to be achieving the strength in a short period of time. So that's why RHC means we have to be know with the highest C3S. In the properties we discussed the C3S, tricalcium silicate, Bogu compound will be more. It is going to make hardens rapidly and it is going to be giving highest strength. And lower CTS, we are going to be reducing the CTS component to that is the dicalcium silicate we are going to reduces, and we are going to be increasing that the tricalcium silicate such that RHC we are able to get the rapid hardening cement. The rapid rate of development of the strength is attributed to the higher fineness of grinding and higher C3S and lower CTS, where we will use this rapid hardening cement. So in a prefabricated constructions means we can able to see that the structural components we are going to be preparing somewhere else and we are going to be attaching at the site. So that is we are going to be joining or we are going to be placing that at the site, and we are going to be doing and we are going to be manufacturing that the structural components somewhere else in remote area, and we are going to be transported and we are going to be used for the joining or use it in the construction itself. In that case we are going to be using as the prefabricated. That is one of the prefabricated constructions. We are going to be fabricated somewhere else and then we are going to be using into the site of the construction, where formwork is required to be removed early for reuse elsewhere, because it is going to be getting that the strength or hardened very quickly, then we can able to remove the formwork. So formwork will be necessary to make that the concrete constructions. If I want to go for the structural element, either it is going for the foundation, or I have to go for the column, or I have to go for beam, I have to go for the slab. For each and every structural element will be required formwork. Means that we are going to be getting that the desired shape and size such that concreting has to be possible. That is not the formwork. We are going to be framing or we are going to be forming the concrete by the required shape and size of the structural element. So then once the concreting is done, means it is going to be hardened, then we are going to be removing the formwork. So it is going to be hardened very fastly. Then we will remove the formwork at a short period of time. We are going to be with less period will be required, or less time will be required for the formwork, and we can able to reuse for somewhere else. The same formwork we can use for the multiple purposes, or some other the same site we can able to use in some places. So that's why we are going to be saving the time for the farm work, and we can use for reuse for somewhere else. So that is the possibility will be there if we are going to be using that the rapid hardening cement. Road repair works, because the road repair works is going to be using cement concrete roads is there. So if you are going to be using rapid hardening cement, it is going to be hardened very fast. Then we can able to complete the task in a short period of time. So then we will not going to be interrupting the traffic. So that's why road repair works also we can able to use the rapid hardening cement. In cold weather concrete, where the rapid rate of development of the strength reduces the vulnerability of the concrete to the frost damage. So in cold countries, what is going to be happen? The water is going to be so getting to the crystals. That's why within that period, because it is a very less temperature will be there, the water availability for the temperature. So immediately it is going for the freezing. Frost is going to be the freezing of the water is going to be taking place. So before that, the concrete has to be get hardened. That's why in cold weather concretes also we can able to the better place we are going to be using rapid hardening cement is the cold weather countries. So we can able to place the concrete, and before it is hardening, before it is going to be freezing, the water is going to be freezing, because water will be added to get the cement, coarse aggregate and fine aggregate to make that one. So then once the water is going to be added to that mix, so it is going to be freezes as early as possible. That's why before it freezes, the concrete has to be hardened. For that purpose, in cold weather concrete, the rapid hardening cement we are going to be using. Then sulfate resisting cement. So here the sulfate resisting cement is going to be called as where we are having the marine constructions. Marine constructions, the soil will be having exposed to the various chemicals. That's why sulfate resistant cement will be useful for the marine constructions. Sulfate attack is greatly accelerated if accompanied by the alternate wetting and drying, which normally takes place in marine structures, marine or the sea areas. So in the zone of tidal variations, low 3 C3A and low C4AF. In other words, the cement has a high silica content. Silica content has to be maximum such that we can able to resist the sulfate attack. This is the sulfate attack in the marine structures or the coastal areas where the tidal variations will be very high. In that places, we are going to use sulfate resistant cement. Uses is that concrete to be used in marine condition, concrete used in foundation and basement where soil is infested with sulfates. More sulfates will be there in the soil. Concrete to be used in the construction of sewage treatment works. Sewage means there's the wastewater carried works, sewage treatment works. Concrete used for fabrication of the pipes which are likely to be buried in marshy region or sulfate bearing soils. Means almost all, so we can able to conclude that, so in the water bearing areas or in marine areas, so the soil will be having that the more sulfate concentration. Soil will be having that the more sulfate concentration. In that places, we can able to use that the sulfate resisting cement. The name itself is going to be giving a sulfate resisting cement. It is resist to that the sulfates and make that the concrete mix to be high strength. Then Portland slag cement. Portland slag cement is the ordinary Portland cement. We are going to be adding the slag. Slag is going to be called as waste material coming from various industries that we are going to be added, and we are going to manufacture the process. The waste may be, one is going to be called as, so the OPC clinker plus 25 to 60% granulated blast furnace slag. So GGBS, ground granulated blast furnace slag. So where this is going to be coming, ground granulated blast furnace slag, GGBS. So granulated blast furnace slag is a waste product from the manufacture of iron. From the iron industries, whatever we are able to get that the output or the final product, so is going to be called as waste. That is a slag. We can call it as, technically we are going to call it slag. So that slag we are going to be added to that the OPC clinker, and we can able to manufacture in the process. The amount of iron and slag being obtained is the same order. A proper slag is a mixture of lime 40%. The slag will be comprises of silica 30%, alumina 20%, magnesia 5%, and alkali oxides is 1%. This is the iron slag will be combined. Iron impurities will be having. Iron impurities we are going to be called as slag. This is going to be getting from the manufacturing of the iron industries. So then we are going to add it with the OPC, clinker, and we are going to manufacture cement is going to be called as Portland slag cement. This cement is less reactive than OPC and gains strength at a slower rate during first 28 days. So adequate curing is essential, because here that is the so development of the strength will be very slow, and during first 28 days when compared to the ordinary Portland cement. Uses suitable for mass concrete works, for small works, unsuitable for cold weather conditions, and has high sulfate resistance. Also, this is also will be having that the high sulfate resistance suitable for use in seawater constructions. Then the quick setting cement. So the term itself is going to be giving as meaning quick setting. It sets very quick, and then such that we can able to carry out the work very fast. Quick setting cement is the cement which sets in a very short time. The initial setting time is 5 minutes and the final setting time is 30 minutes. This is the peculiar property of the quick setting cement. If you take that the ordinary Portland cement, anyhow we are discussing in the test of the ordinary Portland cement, but here we are going to expressing that initial setting time and final setting time. Initial setting time is 5 minutes for this quick setting cement, but in the case of ordinary Portland cement, will be initial setting time will be 30 minutes. So means it should not less than 30 minutes. It may be 30 to 40 or 50, 60 minutes also. It should not less than. But here within the 5 minutes itself, we are going to be setting that the property of the quick setting cement. Finally, final setting time is it is hardened. So hardened time is going to require only half an hour in the case of the quick setting cement. If you go for ordinary Portland cement, it is going to be called 10 hours. Ordinary Portland cement get hardened. The time is going to be getting is going to be called a final setting time. Hardened time is going to be called 10 hours. Means 600 minutes. But here in 30 minutes itself, it is going to be hardened. So that is the advantage by using the quick setting cement, because this is mainly we can able to use it in the underwater constructions, because always the water is going to be flowing. It is very difficult to go for the ordinary by using the ordinary Portland cement. In that circumstances, we have to go for to use the quick setting cement instead of ordinary Portland cement or other cements. The composition of the quick setting cement is clinker, aluminum sulfate, 1% to 30% by weight of clinker. The aluminum sulfate increases the hydration of the rate of the silicate. So where we are going to be using quick setting cement? So it is used in underwater constructions. Already explained that. So flowing of water always will be there in the river or the sea water constructions. We can able to go for the quick setting cement. It is also used in rainy and cold weather conditions. It is used in higher temperature where water evaporates easily. Used for anchoring and rock bolt mining and tunneling. So these are the cases, the circumstances. We will go for the quick setting cement. Always we are going to be dealing with the water. In that case, we have to go for the using of the quick setting cement. It improves the strength, and also it reduces the time. It reduces the time to complete the construction. Then the Portland Pozzolana cement. Here also, when we are going to comparing Portland slag cement, there we are going to be using as the slag, and here the Pozzolana. Pozzolanas may be a silica and siliceous and are aluminous materials. So pozzolana is a volcanic dust found at Pozzolo, Italy, used as since Roman times as a hydraulic cement when mixed with the lime. All pozzolanas contain silica and siliceous or aluminous materials. So what are the pozzolanic materials? Are fly ash, slag, blast furnace slag, silica fume, and artificial pozzolanas. Volcanic ash is a natural pozzolana. These are all the pozzolanas that we are going to be adding with the ordinary Portland cement, and we are going to be producing cement is Portland Pozzolana cement. So fly ash, this is going to be getting from thermal power plants. Fly ash is the end product, or it is going to be called waste product, that is going to be after utilizing for the thermal power generation. Thermal power plants, we can able to get that the end product is the fly ash. Blast furnace slag, already we saw that. From iron industries, we are able to get that the end product we are going to be called as slag. That is we are going to be called a ground granulated blast furnace slag, GGBS. Silica fume from the silicon industries we are able to get is the artificial one, and volcanic ash is the natural pozzolana. So the most pozzolanas do not contribute to the strength at early ages, so strength gain of this cement is slow. Here also we are going to be using that, either we are going to be using the fly ash or we are going to be using the GGBS, or we are going to be using the silica fume, because it will be take time to get the highest strength. So in the initial period of time, it will be having very, means it is going to be gaining the strength at a very slow process. After 1 year or after 6 months, or after 1 year, the improvement of the strength will be there in the case of Portland pozzolana cements. But in the case of ordinary Portland cement, if we take that, after 1 month, or after 1 month, that is the 28 days of curing is over, means approximately we will take that the 1 month time. After that, whatever maybe the curing has to be done, there is no improvement or the gaining of the strength will be there in the ordinary Portland cement. Whatever the strength will be there for 1 month, the same strength will be there even after 6 months, even after 1 year also. That is there in the case of Portland ordinary Portland cement. But in the Portland pozzolana cement, so first 28 days the strength development will be less. Later onwards, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, then slowly it is going to be gaining the strength. So the Portland pozzolana cement produces less heat of hydration. There is one advantage, and offers greater resistance to sulfate attack. Therefore, they require larger curing period, but the ultimate strength is the same as OPC. Then the silica fume. Also, this silica fume is also one of the pozzolana we are going to be using. Microsilica is an amorphous polymer of silicon dioxide and silica. It is an ultra-fine powder collected as byproduct of the silicon and ferrosilicon alloy production, and consists of spherical particles with an average particle diameter of 150 nanometers. The main field of application is the pozzolanic material for high performance concrete. For high performance concrete, we are going to be using microsilica or silica fume. Silica fume also other name is going to be called as microsilica. This is from Silicon Industries or ferrosilicon alloys. Silica fume is byproduct producing silicon metal or ferrosilicon alloys. Concrete containing silica fume can have very high strength and can be very durable. Silicon metal and alloys are produced in electric furnaces. The raw materials are quartz, coal, and wood chips. This is the silicon metal having the composition. Then the low heat cement. The term itself is going to be giving you a meaning of low heat of hydration. So the low heat cement is special tailored cement which generates low heat of hydration during setting. It is manufactured by modifying the chemical composition of normal Portland cement. Normal Portland cement is itself, we are going to be modifying that the BOGU compound, that is C3S, C2S, C3A, and C4AF. This cement contains low percentage, 5% of tricalcium aluminate. C3A is 5% and higher percentage of 46% of dicalcium silicate. C2S is 46% and C3A is 5%. So then we can able to control the heat of hydration or the control the heat generation. So that is we are going to call it low heat cement. Initial setting time is 60 minutes minimum. The final setting time is 12 hours is the maximum. Where we will use this low heat cement? Majorly used in constructing dams, large footings, large raft slabs, wind turbine planes. These are the places we are going to be using the low heat cement. Then the white cement. So the white cement we are going to be using for the architectural purposes. White cement is used for architectural purposes. White Portland cement, it is not liable to cause staining since it is low content of soluble alkalis. It is made from raw materials containing very little iron oxide and magnesium oxide. That is the China clay. Kaolin is generally used together with chalk or limestone free from specified impurities. So this is the main purpose is for white cement is for architectural beauty. So that is the external surfaces we are going to be using with the white cement. We can able to get that the pleasing appearance. For that purpose, we are going to be using the white cement. It is usually in decorative works. White cement we are going to be using for the decorative work. It can also use for traffic barriers. That is in the roads. We are going to be using the traffic tile grouts, swimming pools, roof tiles, patching materials, and terrazzo surfaces. These are the places we are going to be using the white cement. Then hydrophobic cement. This is the very peculiar cement. So we are having that the cement is going to final cement product we are making in the fine powder form that is responsible for oleic acid and stearic acid. That is known as the hydrophobic cement. It is not going to be developing any lumps inside the cement bag itself. For that, the reason is we are going to call it hydrophobic cement. Hydrophobic cement is obtained by grinding ordinary Portland cement clinker with water repellent film. Water repellent film forming substances such as oleic acid and stearic acid. The water repellent film formed around each grain of cement reduces the rate of deterioration of the cement during long storage, transport, or under unfavorable conditions. So that is the main important feature we'll be having, that the hydrophobic cement will be having water repellent film of oleic acid and stearic acid can able to put that the cement to the long time storage we can able to do it. So without creating any lumps of the cement granules. Lumps is not going to be generated of the from the cement granules. That is the peculiar advantage by using hydrophobic cement. Or you are going to transport for long distances or under unfavorable conditions. The film is broken out when the cement and aggregate are mixed together at the mixer, exposing the cement particles for normal hydration. When it is going to be opening up of the bag, still is you are not going to be opening the bag of the cement, the powder is going to be maintained, that is the fineness is going to be maintained. Once you are going to open and we are going to be exposed to the weather conditions, then automatically you are going to be mixing, then it is going to be oleic, the water repellent film is going to be disturbed, is going to be coming out, and it is going to be mixing with the other ingredients itself. That is known as hydrophobic cement. Uses of hydrophobic cement: usually it is used in the construction of water structures such as dams, spillways, or other submerged structures. It is also used in the construction of underground structures like tunnel, etc. So water repellent film is going to be acting on the surfaces of the cement grains such that it is going to be will enter in the concrete amount of air body, which incidentally will improve the workability of the concrete. Ordinary cement gets deteriorated and loses some of its strength, whereas the hydrophobic cement, which does not lose its strength is an answer for such situations. That is the feature of hydrophobic cement. Then the testing of the cement will be having that field testing and laboratory testing. Field testing is rapid way we are going to be doing the field testing such that we can able to give the quality of the cement. How we will do that? The field testing is, first one is open the bag and take good look at the cement. There should be and not be any visible lumps. There is no lumps will be there, then the quality of the cement will be good. Second is color of the cement. The color of the cement should be normally be grayish, a greenish gray, or the gray color will be there. Then it is going to be quality is good. Next, the third rapid observation is that thrust your hand into the cement bag. It must give you a cool feeling. Just you are going to putting the hand inside the bag of the cement, we can able to feel that cool feeling. So then there should not be any lumps inside it. So then the third, the testing window. Then the fineness we are going to be testing by using the cement. Take a pinch of cement and feel between the fingers. Just rub it between the fingers. It should give a smooth feeling, not a gritty feeling. Then the quality of the cement is good. Then the last observation is that take a handful of cement and throw it on a bucket full of water. The particles should float for some time before they sink. Means it has to float for some time, and after that it has to sink. The quality of the cement is good. So this is about that what are the types of the cement, and what is meant by the BOGO compounds, what is meant by the hydration of the cement, and what are the basic ingredients of the cement, and what is the process of the manufacturing process of the cement we discuss. So next class we will go for the laboratory tests on cement.